Here is his story of how one day Sam Watkins applied for a furlough. He writes, "Now reader, here commenced a series of red tapeism. It had to go through every officer's hands, from corporal up. Well, after getting the corporal's consent and approval, it goes up to the sergeant. It ain't right. Some informality, perhaps, in the wording and spelling. Then the lieutenants have to have a say in it, and when it got to the captain, it had to be read and reread to see that every I was dotted and T crossed, but returned because there was one word that he couldn't make out. Then it was forwarded to the colonel. He would snatch it out of your hand, grit his teeth, and simply write app for approved. This would also be returned, with instructions that the colonel must write approved in a plain hand and with pen and ink. Then it went to the brigadier general. After reading carefully the furlough, he says, "Well, sir, you have failed to get the adjutant's name to it. You want to have the colonel and adjutant, and you must go back to get their signatures. After this, you go to the major general, who never smiles, and tries to look as sour as vinegar. He looks at the furlough and looks down at the ground, and then says, 'Well, sir, this is all informal,' and hands it back to you. You take it, feeling all the while that you wished you had not applied for a furlough, and by summoning all the fortitude that you possess, you say in a husky and choking voice, 'Well, General,' you say, the general in a sort of glump and dry swallow, 'what's the matter with the furlough?' He takes the furlough and glances over it and tells his adjutant to sign the furlough. You feel relieved. You feel that the anaconda's coil has been suddenly relaxed. Then you start out to the lieutenant general. You find him. He is in a very learned and dignified conversation about the war in Chile. Well, you get very anxious for the war in Chile to get to an end. The general pulls his side whiskers, looks wise, and tells his adjutant to look over it and, if correct, sign it. He takes hold of the document and writes the lieutenant general's name. Now, reader, the above is a pretty true picture of how I got my furlough. Produced by UltimateFlags.com.